John, let's turn to your book. It's titled American Struggle. In it, John takes a dive into America's very complicated past, reflecting on a series of notable documents and speeches that show conflict is nothing new in our polarized democracy. By the way, just wrote a 500-page book while writing your 1,000-page book about
well, this is
Dwight David Eisenhower. Just a fun side project here.
Well, this is important. This was the best book I've ever Xeroxed. And I made that point in class at Vanderbilt recently, and they said, what does Xerox mean?
Well, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Update your references
it hurts.
a little bit.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah. So let's talk about the premise.
Yeah.
Why now and how it connects to today.
Well, I don't know, Willie, if you followed the news. There's a lot going on in Washington about the fundamental nature of the country. This book grew out of a book I did almost 8 years ago called The Soul of America. And the idea is, after Charlottesville, the idea is that the country does have a soul. That it's not wholly good or wholly bad. It's an arena of contention where our better angels do battle against our worst instincts. And this is a collection of documents beginning with Virginia summoning the first popular government, which happened in the same season as the first enslaved people coming to Jamestown, all the way through President Trump and Vice President Vance's key speeches. And what I thought was important to do is don't listen to me anymore. Not that you do.
I mean,
exactly.
We try.
I know. But let's listen to the people who did it. Let's listen to the people, both on the, Alexander Stephens, the Vice President of the Confederacy, who says the cornerstone of the Confederacy is the inferiority of the black man, right? So kind of clear what that was all about, right? And also, George Wallace, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Also Frederick Douglass, also John Lewis, also Ronald Reagan. Also George Bush. You have people who have engaged in this central struggle. And the central struggle that animates our own time is, are we going to actualize the Declaration of Independence, or are we going to cave in to our own appetites and ambitions and hold on to what we have? And that's what the American struggle really is, right? It's, can we live up to what we said we were going to be about, right? We voluntarily said this is a nation based on an idea. And there is a strong movement afoot in the country that is about nationalism and is about according rights only to people who look like you. And that is not what the United States is supposed to be about.
And that's something that Republicans like Ronald Reagan have said for a very long time. And we were just having this conversation a few minutes ago about conservatism, and that a lot of what we see right now is not actually conservatism coming out of Trump supporters and this administration. So in the book, July 3rd, 1986, Ronald Reagan makes a famous speech at the Statue of Liberty for the lighting of the torch after the statue's been renovated. They came from every land. And I think when Trumpists today hear that speech, and by the way, others from President Reagan, they have a little bit of trouble squaring someone they've declared as one of their heroes, Ronald Reagan, with the policies they're supporting today.
I don't think President Reagan could be nominated by the Republican Party of 2024. I know neither Bush could. And that's certainly not Senator McCain, certainly not Governor Romney. And so that's just something to sit with for a second. I'm not saying the establishment was always right. I mean, self-evidently, the establishment, as we understand it, was clearly not commensurate to the cares and concerns of a dispositive number of people in the country over the last quarter century or so. Does that mean, therefore, you take out the whole constitutional order? I don't think so. And I think what I hope this does, and it's not me, so you'll like it, folks. I introduced some stuff, but it's really, I hate this corporate term, but it's a convening, right? This is, if you were gonna have dinner with important people from whom you've heard of and haven't heard of from the American story, this is what they believe, this is what they fought for. A final point. I'm asked all the time. So the two questions we all get, right, is has it ever been like this, and what do I do? And the answer is kinda on the first one. It's, illiberalism has been on the march. We're going to talk about the 250th for a long time this year. Really, this country is 60 years old, right? 1965 is when we became a multiracial democracy with the Voting Rights Act and the Immigration Act that undid the restrictive 1920s system. And what do? Well, what you do is what these folks did. They stood up. They understood that to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yes.
There's nothing easy about citizenship, and there never was. And so I think despair is not an option.
Jim Vandehei.
Like that.
John, I think when people hear you talk about Ronald Reagan not being electable in the Republican Party, it kind of adds to this anxiety and this feeling among at least half the country that the system's broke beyond repair. I happen to be in the camp of I just think that there's something about capitalism and democracy that are far more resilient than people realize in the moment. Like, make that case. Like, why, based on the conversations that you're trying to channel, should people feel hopeful that we'll spring back?
Because, Jim, we lived in a country that until 20 minutes ago had functional apartheid in the region where I grew up and live. So it's not as if there was some democratic lowercase d Valhalla that was somehow corrupted in 2015 when Donald Trump comes down the escalator. This is a complicated, disputatious country that on our biggest moments, right, reform of democratic capitalism, the progressive era, and the Gilded Age, the expansion of rights, the undoing of Plessy versus Ferguson, the battle against slavery. And also what I haven't mentioned, which is vital, is Mika has only been able to vote for 100 years in federal elections in this country, right? So my point is we have always had to confront a fundamental question about does the system work? And I would, maybe even the better way to put it is, can the system deliver? And if democracy, if the constitutional order can't deliver the conditions for lives of purpose and prosperity, then we will have a politics of total war. And I agree with you about the resilience of democratic capitalism, but democratic capitalism only endures if we have a common faith in the rule of law. What I say to business folks, and you know more than I do, is if you break the Constitution, what makes you think any contract is safe?
Right.
That's what authoritarianism is.
Yeah.
It's trust. It's a covenant.
Trust.
It's a covenant. And it's hard. It's really, really hard.
John, for some reason, I watched The Searchers last night, considered by many to be John Wayne and John Ford's best movie. That reminded me of Joan Didion actually going on the set of The Sons of Katie Elder and writing about it so eloquently. So I went out after and I searched for Slouching Toward Bethlehem. But I picked up the White Album, her book that came out after. And this reminds me, these words, Slouching Towards Bethlehem was a brilliant woman who could make no sense of what was happening in the 60s. She talked about the atomization that was happening. America was breaking apart, as so many people believed in 67 and 68. But I just want to read you from the White Album, something she wrote after looking back over that entire period. And it reminds me so much as I was reading it of what I hear people saying to me, what they say to you. And she writes that in the middle of her life, she still wanted to believe in the narrative and the narrative's intelligibility. We look for the sermon in the suicide, for the social or moral lesson in the murder of 5. We interpret what we see, select the most workable of the multiple choices. We live entirely, especially if we're writers, by the imposition of a narrative line through desperate images. Or at least we do for a while. I'm talking here about a time when I began to doubt the premises of all the stories I had ever told myself. A common condition, but one I found troubling. I suppose this period began around 1966 and continued until 1971. The only problem was that my entire education, everything I had been told or had told myself, insisted that the production was never meant to be improvised. It was supposed to have a script. And I had mislaid it. I was supposed to hear cues, and I no longer did. I was meant to know the plot, but all I knew is what I saw. Flash pictures in variable sequence, images with no meaning beyond their temporary arrangement. And of course, she was talking about the chaos of Vietnam, the chaos of Martin Luther King, Bobby, all the assassinations one after another that happened, Kent State, all the riots across America. You read this and you understand this could have been written by Joan Didion in these days. All the cues, all the narratives, all the stories we tell ourselves to live, all seemingly wiped clean, but of course, they're not wiped clean. You go back to 68 and see the chaos there. In many ways, it's so much more overwhelming than anything we've gone through over the past decade, but that seems to be the message of your book. We've been here before. It hasn't been pretty. In fact, we were here for many Americans until 1965. So we can get through this, right?
We can. It doesn't mean we will, right? And so you're exactly right. The story and I think that's why the story matters, particularly for the 21st century. If you were born in the 21st century, why would you believe that the public sector or democratic capitalism, as Jim raised, is worth the defense? September 11th, the failure of weapons of mass destruction and intelligence, the Great Recession, a biographically interesting but historically indispositive Obama presidency, the rise of Trump, COVID, January 6th, school shootings and drills that explicitly say, we can't keep you safe. So you and I, we all grew up with, if not part of eras where the country's mainstream was widened, where we were strong, where we could, in fact, pursue a more perfect union. We were adjacent to those people. Right? My grandfathers fought in World War II. My father fought in Vietnam. Right? We all have that connection. So for us, it was more tactile. Now, it has to be, Joe, what you just said, it has to be narrative. You have to tell the story in order to have a faith that this constitutional order is worth defending. Otherwise, the voices of nihilism, the voices that are about power above principle, about the rule of the strong over the defense of all, will prevail. And that's why this story is so important.
All right, the new book, American Struggle, Democracy, Dissent, and the Pursuit of a More Perfect Union, is available now. Presidential historian and Pulitzer Prize-winning author Jon Meacham, thank you very much. We'll be talking about this a lot more. Thank you.